The twin sons of Kajar 7 cast long shadows across the crimson plains as Tharn stalked the perimeter of his territory. His massive form, standing nearly 3 meters tall on 4 muscular legs, moved with the fluid grace of an apex predator. His silver-black fur rippled in the hot wind, and his 6 eyes scanned the horizon with practiced vigilance. Something was wrong. His cubs had been missing for 3 cycles, far longer than any hunting trip should take. Tharn's mate had fallen to the sickness 2 seasons ago, leaving him to raise the 4 younglings alone. He had taught them to hunt, to fight, to survive in this harsh world where only the strong endured. But now, as the second sun dipped toward the horizon, an unfamiliar scent reached his nostrils. Metal, ozone, and something else, something that made his hackles rise. Then he saw them. 4 figures emerged from the heat shimmer on the horizon, moving in perfect synchronization. Tharn's heart seized. Those shapes, too upright, too structured, couldn't possibly be his cubs. Yet something in the way they moved, the subtle rhythm of their gait, triggered a deep recognition in his predator brain. As they drew closer, Tharn's confusion crystallized into shock. His cubs walked on their hind legs, their natural quadrupedal stance abandoned for this bizarre bipedal march. But more disturbing was what covered them. Sleek armor that gleamed like captured starlight fitted perfectly to their young forms. Helmets with transparent visors obscured their faces, and each carried a weapon he didn't recognize, compact, efficient, humming with barely contained energy. Impossible, Tharn growled, the word rumbling from deep within his chest. The lead cub, his eldest Kresh, raised one armored paw. The formation halted with military precision. Father, Kresh's voice came through a speaker in the helmet, distorted but unmistakable. We have returned. Tharn circled them slowly, every instinct screaming danger, yet unable to attack his own blood. What happened to you? What is this? This abomination? Before Kresh could answer, another figure emerged from the heat shimmer. A human. Tharn had seen humans before during the brief territorial disputes when their colony ships first arrived. Small creatures barely reaching his shoulder, with laughably weak bodies and no natural weapons. The galaxy had mocked them when they appeared, hairless apes who had somehow stumbled into space travel. Easy prey. This human wore similar armor to his cubs but carried herself with undeniable authority. Her blonde hair was cropped short, and her blue eyes held the kind of calm confidence Tharn had only seen in fellow apex predators. You must be Tharn, the human said, her translator rendering her words in perfect Kajari. I'm Captain Rhea Voss, United Earth Defense Corps. Your cubs have been training with us for the past 3 cycles. Training? Tharn's growl deepened. You stole them. You corrupted them. Captain Voss shook her head. They wandered into our base camp during a dust storm. They were injured, starving. We saved their lives, she paused, letting that sink in. And then they asked to stay. Lies. Tharn roared, but uncertainty crept into his voice. He looked at his cubs again. They stood straighter, healthier than when he'd last seen them. Their armor bore no restraints, they wore it willingly. Father, Kresh stepped forward, removing his helmet. His young face held a maturity that hadn't been there 3 cycles ago. Captain Voss speaks truth. We were dying. The sandstorm separated us from your trail, and we couldn't find our way back. The humans found us. They fed us, healed us, and in return they made you into what, their pets? Their weapons? Captain Voss's expression hardened. With respect, Tharn, we made them into something your world never could, soldiers. Not just hunters relying on brute strength, but warriors who understand strategy, tactics, teamwork. She gestured to the cubs. They learned to walk upright, to use tools, to fire weapons with precision. They learned human combat doctrine, which has kept our species alive against enemies far stronger and faster than us. They learned that strength isn't just in claws and teeth, it's in intelligence, adaptability, and unity. Tharn's 6 eyes narrowed. Humans are weak. You have no claws, no natural armor, no speed. You're prey animals playing at being predators. A cold smile crossed Captain Voss's face. You think so? Then explain how humanity has conquered 73 worlds despite being weak. Explain how we fought off 3 separate galactic invasions. She stepped closer, fearless. We're weak individually, yes. That's why we learned to be strong together. That's why we build tools that make us stronger than any natural predator. That's why we never ever stop adapting. She turned to the cubs. Show him. In perfect synchronization, the four cubs moved through a complex drill, firing at distant targets with impossible accuracy, coordinating movements, providing cover for each other. They moved like water, like a single organism with four bodies. When they finished, Tharn stood in stunned silence. "Your cubs were strong before," Captain Voss said quietly. "Now they're unstoppable. Not because we made them weak, but because we taught them what humanity learned millennia ago, that the pack is always stronger than the lone wolf." Tharn looked at his eldest. "Kresh, you want this? This human way?" Kresh nodded. "Father, I've seen their cities, their ships, their unity. They have no natural weapons, so they invented weapons. They have no armor, so they built armor. They're not strong, so they became smart. They don't survive because they're apex predators. They survive because they refuse to accept any other option." He stepped closer. "You taught us to be strong alone. The humans taught us to be stronger together. Both lessons have value." For a long moment, Tharn said nothing. Then slowly, deliberately, he lowered himself into a submissive crouch, something no alpha had done in living memory. "Teach me," he said to Captain Voss. The human's eyebrows rose. "You? If my cubs can learn human ways, so can I." Tharn's 6 eyes blazed with determination. "You say humans refuse to accept weakness? Then I will learn this strength." Captain Voss studied him for a long moment, then extended her hand, a human gesture of agreement. After a heartbeat's hesitation, Tharn pressed his massive paw against her small palm. "Welcome to the Defense Corps, Tharn," she said. Training starts at dawn. As the twin suns finally set, casting the crimson plains in shadow, Tharn stood beside his cubs and watched the human camp lights flicker to life in the distance. He had left his territory as an alpha who ruled through strength alone. Tomorrow, he would learn what it meant to be human, and perhaps to be something more than just a predator. Perhaps to be a warrior.